Prepare yourself for the terror. The prison of madness, where few enter and none return.
Welcome to Unsung Horrors. With Lance. And Erica.
Leave all your sanity behind. It can't help you now.
Welcome to another episode of Unsung Horrors, the podcast where we review underseen horror movies, specifically those which have fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. I'm Erica.
I am Lance.
And this week we are covering a movie that I picked specifically for my birthday.
And it is a perfect birthday gift.
Yes, I think so. If you've seen this movie, Damned in Venice, 1978, you will absolutely, and you know me, you will absolutely understand why. This is currently available on YouTube, and it has 315 views on Letterboxd.
It's crazy.
Yes.
Not enough.
Not enough. Needs a Blu-ray desperately. But before we get into the movie, Lance was kind enough to bring me my birthday present, so I'm going to open it right now.
Yeah. Yeah, as she's unwrapping it, everybody, her birthday is this month, March.
Yeah.
And
stupid South by. Always, man, like, too many people are in town. I can't go out.
It's like
and do
St.
anything.
Patrick's Day, too. You got Stone Cold Day.
Yeah, I got Stone Cold Day. I got the Ides of March. I got, all these things. And it's like, you know what? Can I have my birthday, please? Anyway. Oh, shit. Okay. Nice. Yes. You've told me you were getting this for me, and I totally forgot. This is how bad my memory is.
I was like, I'm glad she's acting surprised, but I don't think she is.
So Lance got me the Cannibal Holocaust and the Savage Cinema of Ruggero Deodato book.
Yeah, so Severin sold out of that pretty quick.
Yeah.
And then they put a couple on a couple months ago. They said they had a few more in stock. So I had to get you a copy. I wasn't sure if you had it, and that's why I gave you you don't have this book, do you? Okay, well, don't get it.
I didn't because it's sold out, and I'm super stoked to have it now. Look at all that. Look at all those bloody people. Oh,
happy birthday.
Thank you.
I don't know if it's as good as looking at those bloody dead body pages is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But compared to what's in this movie,
it's all fun.
It is.
It's all fun.
It's all a gift to this world.
All right. So Damned in Venice, 1978. Quick summary. We have Mark, who is a young man who is blind, and his sister Christine, and they move into a boarding house in Venice that's owned by their aunt and uncle. And this is after the death of their grandmother, which technically is Mark's fault, and we'll get into that. So Mark often has these sort of nightmarish visions of violence and sort of unclear events, and they're signaled by like a bright light flashing at him, and then all of a sudden he's seeing some events happening. Christine turns the boarding house into a brothel after both the aunt and uncle die shortly after their arrival. But she does have one male guest come to stay with them briefly, a mysterious man named Dan, which is, we'll get into that's the worst name ever for who he is.
Dan the man.
So after Dan leaves, Christine discovers that she is pregnant, though she claims to not know who the father is because she has never had sex, either with her boyfriend Giorgio or with Dan. She gets abortion shamed by Father Stefano into keeping it. Mark believes that the baby is evil and soon convinces Christine's now husband, Giorgio, of the same. Giorgio soon begins to document all of the events leading up to the birth of Christine's son, Alex. But because so much of what Mark believes is a result of his visions, which contradict reality, it soon becomes difficult to know what or who is real, and what he should do about Alex, the baby, is uncertain.
Well, I think we all know what Erica would do with this baby.
Well, exactly what happened in this movie, because the moral of the story is you get rewarded for doing that. So,
yeah, but do you? I don't. We'll get into it.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So, getting into some of the film specifics, this was directed by Ugo Liberatori. He's only got 8 film credits as a director. So, I watched 1.5. I watched The Sex of Angels. He also co-wrote that, which is basically like a 60s psychedelic, 3 women on a boat plus some guy they sort of kidnap. They do a bunch of drugs, and there's some sort of moral ambiguity about it. It was okay.
Okay.
I started watching May Morning.
I watched May Morning.
I saw that. I was bored to tears. How was it?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it overall. I mean, it's just a drama.
Yeah.
It's like about these academics at Oxford University involving disciplined students, and they're dealing with like these university customs. Mm-hmm. It does have Alessio Orano, is that how you say his name?
Yeah.
Who's an incredibly beautiful man.
Yes. That's why I kept watching it for 30 minutes, because I was like, well, at least I can watch him. But then after that long, I was like, all right, the novelty is worn off.
Yeah, he's the guy in Kotze's The Killer Must Kill Again and Bob is Lisa and the Devil. Mm-hmm. Super good looking guy, but he's kind of the outsider. He's the Italian at this Oxford University, and people are very prejudiced towards him and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I actually enjoyed it. I watched it like a Sunday afternoon. I kind of was vibing with it. And that's the only other one I watched from Ugo. Yeah, as far as direction goes. Yeah, he wrote a lot of good ones.
He did. I might finish it because I got 30 minutes in, so I feel like I'm already semi-committed. And
the ending is pretty. It's a pretty decent ending.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd write it out.
All right. All right. So screenwriters for Damned in Venice, we have the director, of course, Liberatore. Pretty much everything that he's done is all co-writing credits. A lot of what he's done are multinational productions, Italian, German, like Mill of the Stone Women, which we covered back in a very early episode from 1960.
One of our first episodes.
Yeah. And then there's a few that I think both you and I watched. And I have to say, like, going through the stuff that he's written as like the extra watches for this has been really great.
I agree. Every single thing I watched, including like May Morning, but all his co-writing stuff, 4 stars for me. Like I loved them.
Yeah, there were movies that I had not heard of and were off my radar. There was Corruption from 1963, which is about a young man who decides he's going to be a priest, but his father is like this big businessman and is like it's called The Corruption because his dad is trying to corrupt his moral ideals.
Right.
And
prevent him from joining like this monastery.
Mm-hmm. And that one was pretty good. That was on YouTube, I think.
Yeah, I think it was. It was beautifully shot. It reminded me of One Summer of Happiness, the Arnie Matson that I had watched.
Okay.
Visually, all the stuff on the water. And
yeah.
Really great movie, I thought.
Really great. One of the other ones that I really liked, I know you watched this one too, was The Hellbenders from 1967.
Oh, yeah.
With Joseph Cotton waving that Confederate flag.
Yeah, Sergio Corbucci.
Mm-hmm. It was really good. It's about, so Joseph Cotton and his sons rob a stagecoach of a whole bunch of money with the intent to take that money to, it takes place right after the Civil War has ended. Mm-hmm. His intent is that the South shall rise again. He's basically going to build the army up again. Yeah.
Form an army, win back the South. It's terrible, but it's fun to watch.
It is, yeah. Very downbeat ending, very, very Corbucci in that sense. Like I really did like it. Did like it a lot. That one was on Tubi, if you want to check that out. I think my favorite, though, that I watched from his other writing credits was Big Guns from 1972.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of that had to do with Alain Delon being in it, who is one of my husbands and I love.
I've talked about Big Guns. This is I already said it's one of my favorite watches of this year.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah. I mean, I had been meaning to watch it after you talked about it, but this obviously gave me a perfect excuse to watch it. I think my only issue with it is that Delon trying to convince us he's Sicilian, which he is so very not.
Yeah. I mean, he played like Zorro. I mean, they give him some odd parts, but
yeah, dark hair does not make an Italian.
It works for me.
All right.
I loved it. I mean, some other stuff that I'd watched from Liberatore. I watched another spaghetti western that he had co-written called A Minute to Pray, A Second to Die. This one was about like a cowboy who had like these epileptic fits, and his father also had some sort of epileptic seizures and stuff. So he attributed it to some sort of hereditary trait, and he's just like this outlaw who's just kind of causing havoc and stuff. That one's a lot of fun too. I think that one was on YouTube.
Okay.
One thing I did find with Liberatore was I feel like there's a lot of focus on father and son relationships or some sort of parent, child, or some sort of like her family tradition. Mm-hmm. So I watched all these movies. I watched Damned in Venice last. And I was kind of thinking, like, I wonder if there'll be any type of focus on family in Damned in Venice, which sure is.
A little bit, but not as much as these other ones.
Exactly, yeah. I was a little surprised by it because there seemed to be a consistent theme that just wasn't there in Damned in Venice.
Yeah.
I watched Hercules and the Princess of Troy.
Okay.
Which was a pilot that he co-wrote it was a made-for-TV starring Gordon Scott, who's Tarzan, but he was playing Hercules. More tan than muscular looking.
Sure.
It was serviceable, little sword and sandal storyline, but. Yeah. And the witch. Did
you watch that? Okay, yeah, I had that on my watch list, and I didn't get around to it.
That one I'd had in my watch list too, and that
2 hours, and I was like, I don't have time for that right now.
Yeah, I felt the same way, but that one was good. This thing it's super erotic. Like,
okay, I'm in.
It's worth it. The witch, the witch under theme. It's called The Witch, or The Witch in Love. It's very subtle, but when like they kind of pull back the curtains and show like this woman or these women might be witches, it's kind of like. This is what I've been waiting for.
Okay.
I think that one was on YouTube.
Yeah, it is. So some of the other screenwriters, we've got Domenico Raffaele, Ottavio Alessi, who did a couple of the Emmanuel movies, and Roberto Gandis, who co-wrote Big Guns with Ugo Liberatore, Lamberto Bava's Macabre, which is, this might be a hot take, but as much as I love Demons, I kind of like Macabre a little bit better just because of like the Southern Gothic element plus double child murder in it, right. And necrophilia. Like it's got so much good stuff going on.
Yeah, it has all the ingredients that you require.
Yes. And also co-wrote Madhouse, Ovidio Assanitis.
Oh, yes.
Which was the very first movie that Lance and I ever did a podcast together on.
That's true, isn't it? Aww. Yeah, with my brother, with Cody. Yeah, that was fun. I remember because this was my very first podcast ever. I was very nervous. So I watched that movie like so many times. And my notes were just like, I remember I was deep diving, like, did you guys see this car in the background? Like, really trying to like break down and, analyze this movie for clues that weren't there.
I mean,
but that's what makes movies so fun.
It is.
Everybody should watch the Madhouse.
Yes, absolutely. It's got an Arrow release. It's probably streaming still somewhere. Check it out. All right. Cinematography by Alfio Contini. He also did Cavani's The Night Porter from 1974. Lenzi's Oasis of Fear, also known as An Ideal Place to Kill, not A Quiet Place to Kill. That's another Lenzi movie from 1971. And Flavia the Heretic from 1974, starring Florinda Balkan. Art direction by Sergio Cannavaro, who also worked on Bava's Bay of Blood and Fulci's Massacre Time. And then score by Pino Donaggio, a De Palma favorite for Dress to Kill, Blowout, Carrie. He also worked on Piranha, Tourist Trap, another Venetian set film, Don't Look Now, and one of Lance's all-time favorite Cozzi movies, Hercules.
Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah, well, I'll probably talk a little more about Donaggio's score, but I did get a lot of Tourist Trap vibes, and like these were some of his earlier films, so you can see he's kind of finding and creating his own sound, which is really awesome to hear.
Yeah. Besides the score, there's also, and I'll probably talk about it later, there's also just like these random sound bursts here and there. It's either like not quite jump scare sounds, but like there'll be like these laughing sounds and then like a burst of something else, and
there's some weird like it's some effect that it's not like a boing sound, like a it's like a snare drum that has some sort of like flanger delay effect on it. But those were, it's kind of humorous, but I don't think that was the point. I think it was kind of like to kind of jar the audience. So again, I think it's him, just early in his career, just coming up with these like quote groundbreaking sounds that really are kind of funny now watching.
Yeah. All right. So getting into the cast, we have Renato Sesti as Mark. He also played children in Torso and Bava's Bay of Blood. He's Renata and Albert's son, uncredited, but he's in there. Raina Niehaus is Christine. She's got 11 film credits only, not much of note except for Arabella Black Angel from 1989. I think the biggest name in here is definitely going to be Olga Carlatos, and she plays multiple roles in this. I mean, she's technically the same person sort of, but she plays Madeline Winters, their aunt. She also plays a midwife on a boat. And then she also plays, there's another young girl in the film called Vicky. She plays her mother. So Olga Carlotos, most people know her as Paola in Fulci's Zombie. She was also in Murder Rock, Once Upon a Time in America, Castellari's Keoma, and Rene Cardona Jr.'s Cyclone.
She plays the pregnant lady in Cyclone.
Yes. They don't eat the baby in that one. It's so stupid.
That's why I wanted to bring that up. I was waiting for that reply.
I did actually go back and rewatch the beginning after you told me that a kid dies in the plane crash. So thank you for that.
That was a kid, right? That he picks up and just kind of tosses.
I had to rewind to be like, okay, who was sitting where? And then when he picks it up and you can see how big the body is, it's like, yeah, he's tossing the child. So yeah, that's a dead kid.
Sweet.
That's one of my very few plane crash ones that I have. There's not very many.
I wonder if there's any in Soul Survivor. Like if there's any dead kids.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah, I don't.
I'll go back and watch. Who else do we have? Okay. Jose Quaglio plays Father Stefani. He was also in Who Saw Her Die. I think that's something that you and I have both talked about on either Junesploitation or Horror Gives Back episodes.
He's got a great look, like a commissioner or a police or even like a priest.
Yeah.
Like he's got that great look.
He's got that perfect look for those roles for sure. Fabio Gama is Giorgio. That's Christine's boyfriend. And he's also writing the Gospel According to George, which we'll get into. Tom Flehy is Martin Winters, the uncle. Now, I have seen 22 movies starring him, and I didn't even realize it because I looked at him up real quick, and it was like, you've seen 22 out of 125 of his movies. I was like, holy shit. And most of them are small roles. Like he was in a lot of Argento, Deep Red Cat o' Nine Tails, Four Flies on Grey Velvet. But he was also in Salon Kitty, Almost Human, The Big Gun Down, All the Colors of the Dark. I mean, Massacre Time. So many movies.
Yeah, he's in a ton.
Never really like starring though. Like, I mean, he doesn't necessarily have like a super familiar face, but yeah. Anyway, Tom Flehy, he's in a lot of movies. Check him out. Yorgo Voyagus, who plays Dan / the Cane Man / spoiler Satan.
Yes.
He's also in Kinski's Vampire in Venice from 1988 and Deodato's The Washing Machine from 1993. We will get into more of this film right after this promo from our network.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal: providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
All right, so Lance, you and I usually, when we cover a movie, watch it at least twice before doing it. And I noticed the first time you watched it, you didn't give it a star rating, but you did give it a heart.
Yeah.
But then the second time, you did give it a star rating. Was that because you were just sort of like, I don't know how I feel about this movie yet, or I need a second watch to fully feel confident in that?
Yeah, I did that with Creatures from the Abyss too.
Okay.
Our last episode. So I usually enjoy all these movies, which I think most people would on a second watch, especially this one, because there kind of are a lot of, like we just talked about Madhouse. There's a lot to analyze and there's a lot of like theories that you can throw out there.
Sure.
So yeah, the first time I loved it. Obviously the heart was for, what the scene we're going to talk about very soon. It is the best death scene, I think, ever.
Yes.
But yeah, the second rewatch was when I felt like I can give it a star rating because of like how it ends, and all my theories kind of started coming together.
Yeah. What about, so the setting to me is something that is interesting in this, in that I don't necessarily understand why it was set in Venice. Because if you look at a movie like Don't Look Now, where it absolutely makes perfect sense for that movie to be set there because, Venice, the city is a labyrinth. I've been there myself, like by myself, and it fucking sucked because you get lost and you don't have anyone to like help you out and figure out what you're doing. And I'm not a person who, when I'm traveling by myself, likes, I'm just going to get lost and explore. It's like, no, I need to know like where I'm at.
Yeah. You like to have like an itinerary and exactly where to go.
Like I don't want to just get lost in the city, especially being a female. I don't like, that's not ideal for me. So that's my impression of Venice is like this sort of, the city is a labyrinth. Don't look now. It totally fits. Here, it doesn't like, I feel like this movie really could have been set almost anywhere.
Yeah, I agree because first off, the exterior shots are just beautiful to watch. Other than maybe that might be the reason because it is all the canals and everything. It's just fascinating to look at.
Right.
There is a scene that involves a canal specifically, with the baby carriage.
Yeah.
But
you could be in a lake and have that.
Exactly. Yeah. And with the amount of time that they are actually in scenes in boats, I felt like I was watching like an episode of The Amazing Race. Like they're just traveling all these places and it seems like they're in, traveling to different countries and cities. But yeah, I thought like, what's the history of Venice? Again, there has to be some sort of reason. But if you're looking at like, religious reasons specifically, again, you could pull any city that might have just as...
It should be in Rome, if like, especially given the subject matter. It's like, why isn't this movie in Rome? Is it because we had access to this particular place to shoot our movie? So this is therefore where we're going to set it. And because otherwise, the only other reason I can think is maybe there's supposed to be some sort of added tension by having our main character, Mark, be blind. Because it seems like not an ideal city for someone who's blind to live in.
That's true. Yeah. And maybe that could be it because there is a scene where he tries to escape. Mm-hmm. And, Dan, the cane man's like, if I wouldn't have gotten him, he would have drowned in the canals or something. So maybe the fact that it's kind of isolated specifically for Mark, the blind character, which also, what caused his blindness?
Oh, they never explain it.
They don't.
He's been blind for 3 years and they never explain why.
Yeah. At first I was like, okay, first off, Christine's a bitch, his sister. Mm-hmm. And I was like, she obviously hates Mark and his blindness. She must have never been happy her entire life. But then I find out that his blindness only occurred like 3 years ago. And, I respect that it's left a mystery, but at the same time, give us some more clues.
Yeah.
It could add to the story.
Theory. The devil's plan goes back 3 years to let's blind this boy, Mark. Right. They've already chosen Christine to carry the spawn of Satan, right? So we got to blind Mark in order to give him a reason to try to fulfill the plan that we have to try to get his sight back.
Right, because this is a centuries old plan from what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And the boarding house that they're living in, the Winter's home, is the specific location. So yeah, sure. That makes sense. Like it's all part of the plan for.
I didn't think of that until this. Yeah, I didn't think of it though until this like second or third time I watched it. So
yeah, because I kept thinking like, what is the purpose of the blindness? I get that he has these visions and stuff, and he has a desire to see. Mm-hmm. And again, but
yeah, I think a lot of it is like casting doubt on. It's like, oh, you can't see like what's really going on. Also for him to have the visions of Dan or the man with the cane, but not knowing it's him until it's too late and he's already moved into the boarding house.
Right.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. I think the movie still could have worked fine without him being blind. I think it's one of those things where it's just adding this other layer of Italian sort of weirdness to it. It's like, hey, there's that movie Rosemary's Baby, and let's just add all these other weird elements to it.
It's also because like there's a whole plan of, like you said, it's a preset plan for the devil to kind of resurrect and live he wants to imitate like Jesus's life.
Right.
And maybe Mark's blindness it's what helps him cause this, or it's what helps him feel feels this rage and this jealousy, which is brought up a couple of times in the movie. So he's jealous of other people who can't see. Yeah, I don't know. I'm focusing too much on this blindness at this point.
Yeah, it's fine. Let's talk about the people who die in this movie.
Okay.
There's a lot, not necessarily gory deaths very much. It's saved all for one, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
So first of all, we have, when we start the movie, Mark and Christine are both charges of the grandmother. Like she's still their custodian. Mm-hmm. And she makes a very clear point about saying that they're not moving in anywhere else, until I'm dead. And I'm like, well, you're obviously going to die now.
Yeah, this is like 12 minutes into the movie.
Yeah.
Hers is
setting herself up for it. So then they're at church and Mark's just like causing a scene for whatever reason. His sister yells at him to go sit in the back and stop bothering people. And when he is heading back there, he accidentally knocks over a candle that falls on his grandma's dress and burns her alive like instantly.
Yeah. And everybody stands up and stares. There are no attempts to put this fire out as she's, just screaming in terror and in death. And, I think the priest makes like an analogy, like it's like she's been incinerated by a thunderbolt from heaven.
Yeah.
As she's sitting there screaming and burning, they're all just staring at her. But again, he probably has something to do with the plan, the master plan. But right. I feel like Christine or any of the people at the altar would just run up and start putting out this fire.
Yeah, you would think so. It's like maybe throw a cloth over her or something. Nothing.
They're all, deep in thought and prayer at that point. Blame God.
There's a lot to blame God for in this movie.
Yeah, so that is the first death.
Yeah.
It's pretty brutal.
That one's pretty brutal. So after she dies, of course, Mark and Christine move into the boarding house with their aunt and uncle. Mark sees a vision of his Aunt Madeline getting stabbed with a cane by Dan, the man with the cane, in one of his visions. And then when the vision is over, he goes to see his aunt and realizes she's having some kind of heart trouble. She gives him a warning about the Pentecost, and then she dies from heart failure. So, the cane stabbings, it's kind of just like, jabby, nothing particularly gory or anything like that. There's one where I think it's Vicky later on. She gets cane stabbed in the head.
Yeah,
right.
She gets stabbed. Yeah, and it's pretty good practical effects because they have the cane, sinking in itself. Extending, but
it's not like, Bob getting drilled in the head or anything like that.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
And then, so the aunt dies, and then shortly after, Mark is hearing these voices talking about, including his uncle, and what we realize later is the man with the cane, that, his job is done now, even though the child has not been conceived yet. He's hearing these voices, and then all of a sudden, his sister and him are walking up the stairs, and the uncle's body just drops, and he's hanged himself. Damn it.
Or he's walking with Vicky.
That's right. Vicky, you're right. Not his sister.
Yeah. And then she's the one who sees it, obviously, because Mark's blind. There's just that hanging scene, it looks good. Mm-hmm. They have that. Every movie has that effect. Tied at the waist and boom.
Good stuff. Again, no preacher hanging himself at the beginning of a Fulci movie, but it's still really good. Mm-hmm. And then I already mentioned Mark having a vision of Vicky being stabbed with a cane. I think what's great about that one, though, is so later on, he goes into it's a room, but it looks like it's a closet. So we'll call it the closet room. And he goes to show his sister, like, Vicky's dead. And she doesn't find anything but a doll. And then when they leave the room, they drop the doll. And then there's that evil child laugh with it. And then there's just blood everywhere. That's
what that weird laugh gave me, like tourist trap vibes.
Yes,
and stuff.
very exactly like the mannequin laughs in that.
Yeah.
And then when he goes back later, he actually does find her corpse.
Yes.
Maggot infested. Like that's the the second best point of gore in this film, I think.
Yeah, it looks great. It's very slimy, gross worms. There's a lot of like worm stuff going on in this, like in the water from the house, like from the faucet. There seems to always be worms or some sort of slugs. But that scene too, another thing that DiNaggio would do is he would play, I don't know what elements, if it's a score that's played throughout the movie, but he would play it backwards in certain scenes.
Yeah.
And it's super effective because it's just like, I don't know. He does it in these scenes. I think he did it in the scene when he found Vicky's dead body, where it just sounds...
It's disorienting.
Very disorienting, yeah.
I think too, like what's so effective about when Mark does finally find her body is that the fact that he's blind, and so the only way he can, like, if you or I see that, we're gonna like look at it and be like, ugh. Mark's way of seeing is he has to touch it, so he's got his fingers all up in there, like touching all the maggots and fucking all this shit. It's gross.
It is. Yeah. It's also that scene, the very first scene when he turns on the faucet in the bathroom and all the worms and black water starts coming out. And all he does is yell, "What is it? It's disgusting. It's disgusting." He's like rubbing his hands together.
What is it? Christine? It's slimy.
Poor Mark.
I know. I do think one of the other things that when it comes to like the gore is I guess a couple things. And I'm wondering if this was supposed to be some sort of foreshadowing. So, when Father Stefano is in the church, and I think he's talking to Mark, and behind him on the wall, there's these glass round cases and there's heads in there.
Yeah.
Is that supposed to be foreshadowing for him getting decapitated later, do you think? Or is that a normal thing that is in churches? I have no idea.
I don't know either. I mean, you're in Venice.
I didn't see I would have liked Venice a lot better if I saw decapitated heads in churches there.
Maybe that's the reason it was picked, because there are decapitated heads in Venice. I don't know. Yeah. No, I feel like that could be some sort of foreshadowing, because that doesn't seem to make sense.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know, but it does lead to probably it's definitely like, there's my absolute favorite moment in the movie, which we'll get to. And then like pretty far down, here's my next favorite moment in the movie, is when Giorgio tricks Father Stefano into baptizing the baby, like his whole plan for that.
Yeah.
And then the father immediately gets decapitated. He falls off the boat, he gets caught up under it, and then the fake head floats up in the water, bobbing around after this huge burst of blood in the water.
Yeah, the propeller slices open and it decapitates him. And it's a great looking, I mean, it's obviously fake, but it is creepy looking, especially with the water moving and stuff, and it kind of bobs up.
Yeah.
Love it.
Giorgio adds like some line. He's like adding another line to his gospel according to George that he is writing. It's like, "He who baptizes shall be decapitated. So it is written." I fucking love Giorgio.
I love where his character goes. Like, and then the second time I watched it, I started having these theories about him. I guess I can get into it now.
Yeah.
Christine, he's going to marry Christine, who's, I think, a complete bitch. And there's a lot of confusion for that too, because he does say that in the very beginning, before she inherits the boarding house, before the grandmother dies, they want to get married. Mm-hmm. And he says that later in the movie said he wanted to marry her just to have an easier life, which doesn't make sense before she became this,
Right.
I don't know. I feel almost like, especially at the end of the movie, when George pops up, he comes across as like this kind of guardian angel, like this angel character. And I almost feel like he's trying, I don't know. I feel like his character's like some sort of angel on earth to help prevent what's happening, to try and warn and help Mark in a lot of cases. He's the only one that seems to be on Mark's side for a while. But at the same time, he's just getting drunk and like fucking whoever. And I feel like he knows it's like too far gone. So he's just going to like dive into all these human vices on earth and just start going crazy. But he shows up at the end and he's like, "Do you really think I died? And do you really think I'm alive?" And I don't know. I have this like theory that the Madeline character, who's also the same as Vicky's mom and the midwife, that her and George are kind of planted part of this plan for, the devil to arise. And obviously she's some sort of servant or, to deliver the baby, to cause this type of like fear in Mark, to kind of like guide him on his path to do what he does.
Yeah.
I feel like their characters have some sort of like supernatural good and evil traits.
I definitely agree with that. I think having these sort of dueling angel of light, angel of darkness kind of thing interplaying with this. And I think Giorgio is, have you ever read Good Omens? Neil Gaiman, Terry Pratchett. No. So you've got it's kind of in that sense, the angels, there's an angel from heaven and a dark angel from hell or a demon from hell. And they're basically like best friends on earth. And it's basically, there's a little bit of that in there where it's like, I'm not 100% good. Like I'm still like, I enjoy drinking and doing these sort of other things. And sort of Giorgio sort of, I think once he gets into the house and marries her, and is like surrounded by sex workers and is like, fuck it, I'm just going to chug this J&B and fuck this girl. And, I'm living my best life because I know the fucking Antichrist is coming and nothing I can do about it.
That's kind of like what I was feeling.
Yeah. Like. So I agree 100%. I think they're both sort of part of everyone has their part to play in this huge plan.
Right.
But they just don't, there's only some people who know what their part is in it. Mark clearly not knowing what his is.
Right.
One thing I do really like too is, so after Christine, she gives birth on a boat while they're leaving on vacation. Olga Carlotto shows up as a midwife. So the son Alex is born. At one point, they're having a birthday party for him, and there's this. They're sharing like this skeleton mask and like dancing with each other. And then there's this other shot with Christine in the middle and like all of the. They're all at the table with all the food, and then all of the women who are living at the boarding house or all the sex workers are sort of flanking her, and it was very Last Supper like.
I noted that too.
Okay.
Yeah, because that whole scene is a lot of the scenes in here seem completely dreamlike. Like you don't really know what's happening or who's real, who's possessed, who's part of this evil plan. But that scene is especially weird because it's the whole setup. They're all drunk. They're all not thinking correctly. They allow pretty much Mark to walk off with Alex, the baby, which they've been extremely protective of up to that point. Mm-hmm. And also Donaggio's like the music during that scene is super, again, just really disorienting. But that Last Supper scene or that Last Supper visual, I totally got. Even with the lighting and the colors that are used, it just really stood out.
It's clearly very purposeful because if the whole story of Satan coming to have his child and wanting it to be resurrected so that it can live the exact same life as Jesus, then of course, like you need to have your last supper. But this time you've got the madam of a brothel flanked by her sex workers because of course that's the Last Supper of Satan.
Right. Yeah. There was a lot of saxophone, I think, in that scene too. Like it was just an odd, the whole thing is.
So during this dinner, like Lance said, all the women in the house have been very sort of protective of Alex. They've obviously become part of this whole cult of protecting him or whatever it is. The only thing that's missing is a hellhound, unfortunately.
I mean, there's that like little greyhound whippet dog walking around every so often with Dan the Cane Man.
But but you never see it like.
It's not there if you had to pick any like dog breed to be like a hellhound,
it's not a whippet.
Yeah, don't pick a whippet. Might as well get a Chihuahua.
So Mark, like once all the girls get drunk, Mark takes the baby and he goes downstairs to, I guess, what is like Giorgio's sort of art studio. He does like metal fabrication. Mm-hmm. And it's established earlier in the film. There is this like metal wall. It's almost like what you would find, not a full wall, but like this large,
just a sculpture,
flat sculpture with like huge metal spikes sticking out of it, almost like you would find like inside of an Iron Maiden or something like that.
Exactly.
And greatest. I need to know, like, I mean, the first time I saw this, obviously, I was like rewinding it over and over again and rewatching it. So
I mean, I had never seen this movie when you as your pick, but I knew that you gave me the heads up. There was a child death, for your birthday. And on Letterboxd, you have a review that just says, well, this is just simply one of the greatest infant deaths I've ever seen.
Yes.
So even being aware of it and like waiting for it to happen. I mean, there are certain scenes too where Mark pushes the baby carriage into the canal and I'm like, okay, this is it. Okay, I'm ready. This is going to be good. What happens?
Yeah.
Okay, it's not that part. or when there's another scene where he just kind of walks off with the baby before this spike scene.
Yeah.
Even being prepared for it and aware, I was like, it just out of the blue, he casually picks up the baby and whoosh, split second throws it and just impaled, like kills the baby instantly, spikes coming out of the back of his head. So I know last episode we mentioned from Creatures from the Abyss. Mm-hmm. There's a quote that says, "Professor, how long have you been fucking fish?" Which could be the best line in like cinematic history.
Yes.
This baby kill could be the most shocking murder ever. Not just like child death, but any human death.
Yeah.
Like this one caught me completely off guard. It's kind of up there. I felt the same kind of feeling when I first saw Sleepaway Camp for the first time.
Yeah.
And at the end when Angela's revealed, I got that whole like, holy shit.
Yeah.
What am I watching feeling? Yeah, it's just like awe and disgust. So, I mean, thank you for this pick.
You're welcome.
Because like I said earlier, this is a gift to the world.
It is.
It's a visual gift to the world. When I'm old, when I'm an old man and I breathe my last breath through my old man lips, I'm going to think of this scene and I'm going to be happy. And I'm going to be like, oh, what a great world I'm leaving, just
you're leaving a world where something like that exists in a film. Yes.
Yeah. So I applaud Liberatore for, following through and executing it the way he did, because this is the best, definitely the best child death scene I've ever seen. But I think it might be one of the best just death scenes period in movies.
Yeah. I'm with you too. Like I knew it was in there before I watched it. Like not exactly what it was. Like it got spoiled for John because I guess he had seen a GIF of it or something before having watched the movie. But even then, like it got a reaction out of him.
Right.
When I first watched it, I think you hit the nail on the head with like the Sleepaway Camp comparison. I saw that movie as a kid. You're like, holy shit. And I feel like what's so hard to find now, and part of the reason that like I like going backwards and finding movies so much more than watching like new stuff where I'm like, I know exactly what's going to happen in this fucking movie.
Right.
Captain America is going to save the day and whatever. Is coming across stuff like this where you can still get those reactions to something that happens in a film that can catch you so off guard that will stick with you for so long. Absolutely. Yeah. Because I mean, most movies are very formulaic nowadays. Like, what's going to happen. Even if it is a surprising element, it's not, I don't know, it's just not as impactful as watching these older movies that just go so hard and, I don't know, throw logic out the window. I mean, especially these Italian movies, and that's why they're so great. Yeah. It's like, there's no rhyme or reason why he had to kill the baby that way. Like, he could have easily just, like, here, where's its mouth? Okay, let me smother it. Well, it's very casual, too, because that scene, the baby's on the floor on a pillow, and he's sitting on the bed, and he's, reaching around, and he picks up like a knife or something. And like, okay, he's going to stab the baby. But now he just casually just puts the knife down, walks up like he remembered. Oh yeah. There's Giorgio's sculpture. It's so brilliantly executed. Yeah. I love that about it. And, and so what happens after that is that he seems to wake up from this dream. He's been going to this well down in the storeroom and putting water on his eyes because Father Stefano had told him it's miracle water. So he thinks he's going to regain his sight by putting this water on his eyes. Right. He does that again after having killed the baby, and miraculously now all of a sudden he's got his sight back. Right. So he thinks like, I've been rewarded by God for killing this baby of Satan. But then he goes to the cemetery and finds out like, no, the baby's actually been, just like Jesus has been resurrected. And the reward actually came from Satan for helping follow through with the plan. Right. Fucking brilliant. Yeah. The born from Immaculate Conception, dies and then resurrects. Yep. And the whole plan was, to create this hate and rage in Mark to kill the baby. Mm-hmm. And that was our part of the plan. And then he's essentially rewarded for his deeds by getting his eyesight back. Yes. I mean, but for playing like this Judas role, like it's amazing. Yeah. So like, Liberatore's message though, I think is overall, like, you should be kind to people, don't show jealousy, don't show fear,
but do kill babies.
Yeah, that's absolutely. Kill babies, get rewarded. That's the moral of this story, folks.
Yes, unleash evil in this world forever. Love it.
All right, so recommendation, Lance?
Yeah, I mean, I do think we've talked about it. It's a bit of a mess. I mean, I didn't hit on like the pacing, but like the pacing and the whole cutting and editing, weird jumping from scene to scene it's hard to get used to in some cases. Like there's a lot of scenes where a question's asked and the answer is immediately cut to a different scene. Like, but I find that endearing too. But the best kill of all time. I mean, I do recommend this without a doubt. I mean, I like movies that you're kind of left guessing and you're almost walking away with more questions than answers.
Yeah.
This one has it. I mean, it'll open your mind and you're kind of forced to think and come up exactly what you think it means, which is great.
Yeah. I think it improves a little bit on the second watch.
Agree.
For sure. A lot of these that we covered do. It is messy, but it has that flavor, that Italian horror dream. Like there's so much. There's an added layer of it too, with Mark having these visions. Like we also don't know, well, what's real and what's he's seen.
Right.
You know, and so I like having the suspension of logic in movies like this. I come to expect it. And then when it's too straightforward, I get annoyed with it. Or when it's too out there where it's like, I don't understand anything that happened in this movie.
Right.
And they don't give me anything that makes up for it. Then I'm just like, I'm over it. But hard recommend from me, obviously, for certain reasons. Even though if you haven't watched it, I know obviously we've spoiled it at this point, but even it's one of those things where even describing it does not.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even us talking about specifically this baby kill, you're going to be caught off guard. And then all these other like theories we're throwing out there, you might come up with something completely different. I mean, it's definitely worth a watch.
Yeah, for sure. Double feature pick to go with this, Lance.
So I'm going with John Carpenter's Prince of Darkness.
Nice.
From 1987. So kind of like Damned in Venice, it has this building dread and it all comes to a head in a single haunting location, kind of like, in this monastery where everyone are in this abandoned church with this canister containing some strange liquid, which is essentially the embodiment of Satan. And the characters in the church are all having these weird dreams, kind of these visions, which are clues to the evil happenings that are coming. Very similar to how Mark has his visions in Damned. But yeah, I think most people have seen Prince of Darkness. If you haven't,
how dare you?
Yeah, you have to watch it. But the first time I watched Damned in Venice, I kept thinking of Prince of Darkness. There's a lot of gross, slimy worms that kind of reminded me of, the scenes with like all the gross, slimy worms in Prince of Darkness.
Yeah.
All the religious lingo concerning like Satan's offspring. Each movie has this woman getting impregnated by evil. Mm-hmm. Even like the well in Damned in Venice, like it's in a storeroom. It feels like it's kind of underground, but it's reminiscent of like the room where that evil canister is. And like, if you open the well or if you open this canister, evil is just going to unleash like in this world. And then there's that little girl who kind of pops up in Damned in Venice, which I guess is that Vicky?
Yeah.
In the background. She's like the Alice Cooper. She's just there to kind of freak people out.
Yeah.
So, and it's hard for me to pick like a favorite John Carpenter, but Prince of Darkness has always been like in my top 3. I just love it so much.
It's great. It's, I think we're at the point now where we don't have to say it's underrated anymore. I think enough people have finally come around to it. I think maybe 10 years ago, we'd have to make that case and be like, okay, people, really, Prince of Darkness. Come on.
Now it's getting like so many releases and stuff. Like, everybody should. I don't think it's streaming anywhere, so you should buy it. Yeah. And watch it with Damned in Venice.
Yes. All that.
What about you?
I had a lot to choose from because obviously, I've got my big murder wall over here. Yeah. But, and I did choose something that technically is on the murder wall. And this is a Spanish Rosemary's Baby knockoff called Bloody Sect, aka Secta Siniestra, from 1982.
Okay.
It's directed by Ignacio Equino. Vinegar Syndrome actually has a release of this film, so I definitely recommend folks picking it up. This is about a woman who is pregnant with the Antichrist, but she's being carefully watched by a cult or sect of Satanists while she's living in her house. Her partner goes blind at the time. So you have another character in there who doesn't quite know what's really going on. It's this sort of Euro sleaze Rosemary's Baby knockoff with a splash of telenovela in it, because it's got like this one weird female character who lives in the house but is mentally unstable, and then she gets taken away, but then she escapes and comes back and is like living in the attic as this weird other plot element to it. I'm not going to get too far into it because this is technically a spoiler warning for my April Showers of Blood pick. So
I picked up this Vinegar Syndrome. I haven't watched it yet, so
glad you own it, because I think Kat Ellinger's got a commentary on it, so I'm looking forward to listening to that. And I do have to warn folks. I hate giving trigger warnings except when it's an animal death. There is a pretty gnarly frog death in this one.
Oh,
so
okay.
Just FYI for folks. But I think this would be a super fun, like, let's do a little Spanish weirdness and a little bit of Italian weirdness, Antichrist baby ripoff. And I want you to be fully prepared for the ending of this one, because you will stand up and cheer.
Yes.
When you see it. If you can avoid looking at Letterboxd,
okay,
try to do that, or at least don't look too closely at the poster, because there is a semi-spoiler in the poster.
That's good to know.
Yeah. So Prince of Darkness or Bloody Sect, aka Secta Siniestra, for double features.
Yes.
Lance, next pick.
Okay, so it's spring, right?
Well, I'm in Texas, yeah, even though it's...
In Texas, yeah. I mean, the weather's starting to change. This is my favorite time of year, actually.
It's very nice right now.
The weather's nice. The flowers, the trees are blooming.
Oh, God. Well, you're going to go nasty.
Well, it's also the start of baseball season.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I'm a huge fan of baseball. I know a lot of people think it's like the most boring sport ever, but I love it. And I had selected this pick beforehand because baseball season was supposed to start a couple of days after it drops. But there's a lockout happening right now in baseball.
Why?
Because it's the MLB, it's Major League Baseball versus the MLB Players Association. And there's these demands where the Players Association want younger players to be paid more, changing some of the rules and some of like the amounts and stuff. We could talk about like baseball stuff like in this, basically in the episode, maybe. No? I might bring some stuff up.
You can bring up some stuff, but just know that like when my eyes start glazing over, like maybe it's time to stop.
Well, I'm surprised you asked why about the lockout.
I thought maybe like, there was some like civil rights thing or something. Like
no, it's all about like,
money?
Fair. It is about money.
Okay.
I mean, the owners want to hoard the money. The players want to get paid, which they arguably deserve, especially the younger players. So, I mean, they get paid a lot. Yeah. I mean, there's, you can look at both sides.
You're not going to get any sympathy from me. I'm going to be like, everyone in any sport makes too much money. Sorry. All of you. You're getting paid to hit a ball with a stick.
There's a lot more than that. Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. They got to catch it too?
They have to catch it. They have to pitch it. They have to throw it. Anyways, so the first two series of the season have been canceled, right? So it's been pretty much pushed back. We don't know when it's starting, but I'm going to follow through and keep my pick, which involves baseball.
Okay.
And a serial killer.
Okay. And
it's Night Game from 1989.
Oh, is this the one where the hook is in the baseball?
Yes. Okay. Everybody look at them. I mean, if you're not a fan of baseball, just... There's murders going on. It also stars Roy Scheider.
I love him.
Yeah, this is another Pino Donaggio score as well. But yeah, if you're like, oh fuck, baseball, why do I want to watch a movie with baseball?
I'm not surprised that you picked this actually.
Exactly. Just look at the movie poster, like Erica said. It's like you're going to want to watch this movie. But it's about a detective played by Roy Scheider who is attempting to solve a series of murders which appear to be a serial killer. And while he's investigating the days and the frequency of these murders, they seem to be related to when a specific baseball pitcher wins a game. Okay. So it's filmed and it takes place in the Galveston and Houston area. Okay. So is it that team? It's the Houston Astros. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's your team. This is I know. This is like tailor-made. This is wow. If there was a Lance movie, holy shit. So you get to, you're in the Astrodome. There's a lot of scenes in the eighth wonder of the world, the Astrodome. This is 1989. Is it really? That's what it's called. No. That's what it was referred to as, yeah. The eighth wonder of the world. By who? By the world. by people in
Houston
Texas.
Astro fans? Okay.
By the people who built it. So yeah, it's not all baseball. There's a focus obviously on the baseball backstory, and the detective's like a big Houston Astros fan.
Yeah.
So yeah, even though the real season of baseball is postponed to who knows when, Night Game is on. So it's on Tubi. It has 516 views as of this recording, and I hope you enjoy it.
I'm excited. I think I've had this on my watch list for a while just because of the poster.
Yeah, it's recent enough, because the poster it could be kind of spoilery too, but
okay. I'm picturing it in my head, and I'm like, I might see the spoiler after the fact, but if you look at it now, and I'm like,
yeah, well, while you're watching it, there's clues like, how does a serial killer kill people, and you're kind of like,
okay,
well, I think I know from the post.
Okay, got it.
But yeah, it's fun. I can't wait to dive into it. Baseball related.
All right, Night Game.
Night Game on Tubi.
Looking forward to it. Before we get into plugs, just a quick heads up. Available now. I did a guest spot on the Cobwebs podcast with Daniel, who was our guest early on for Never Take Sweets from a Stranger. Mm-hmm. He's kind enough to have me on to talk about some Steve McQueen movies. He's doing a March McQueen Madness series. So I got to go on there, gush about McQueen, talk about Bullet and The Getaway. So be sure to check out the Cobwebs pod for that. If you're not already, you can follow this podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors. And you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Letterboxd at Hex Massacre.
And you can find me on Twitter, Letterboxd, and Instagram at El Shaibi.
Thanks everyone for listening, y'all. And we'll see you back next episode for
Night Game.
Baseball, y'all.
Baseball. Bye.
Bye.
Satan is real, working in spirit. You can see him and hear him in this world every day. Satan is real, working with power. He can tempt you and lead you astray.
Hey, it's Death by Video.
I'm Phil.
I'm Kit.
And I'm Graham saying welcome to our podcast full of merry movie mayhem.
Ever wonder what an Irish kung fu movie would look like?
It's called Fatal Deviation, and we covered it.
Ever wonder what a movie about 1,000 cats would look like?
It's called Night of 1,000 Cats, and we covered it.
And it stars Hugo Stiglitz. Listen to Death by Video to hear us discuss and dissect some of the weirdest, wildest, and wackiest films ever made. All this and more on Death by Video! Woo!